Welcome to the first game of the day. This game is going to be Siberian versus Looted Hose. We've got Sib defending his throne. He had a very exciting series against King Lemon yesterday, who he dethroned. He is now the new star-crossed king, and he is defending his throne today against Looted Hose, his very first challenger. This game is going to be on Stalingrad, and we have Overcommando West in the north playing against Soviets in the south. We're going to see Sib immediately running for the munitions point, throwing up a wire to deny this sandbag cover position over here on the right side to his opponent, before taking up a position inside this building, which will give him vision of his opponent's first conscript squad over there. And we're going to see a tier 1 structure immediately after the first squad of conscripts into a penal battalion. Penal battalions perform pretty okay on Stalingrad since they have flamethrowers, good medium range squad. So we'll see if he can make good use of them. And there is a blind spot on this building since there are no south-facing windows. He may be able to take advantage of that with that penal squad from right here. If he actually gets into this green cover wall, I think he can get all 6 of them firing at medium range. But regardless, he seems to be bringing that squad down pretty low. He's not going to take advantage of the blind spot though. Circles around to start capturing this munitions, which means he is going to be taking some damage from those terms, but it will also mean he can capture that munitions and combat them simultaneously. We're going to see the SWS half-track making its way towards the center right here. Volksgrenadiers making their way over here to the right side, fuel. And those conscripts just ran up into short range against those Volksgrenadiers, but they didn't have very much health remaining, and they will be forced to retreat right there. Penal Battalion is finally doing sufficient damage to force those Stern Pioneers to retreat. Combat Engineers taking control of the left side victory point. Penal Battalion moves into this green cover to engage these Volksgrenadiers, but they don't quite have a line on them. Volksgrenadiers repositioning behind the tank. As far as commanders, we've got NKVD, Lend-Lease, and Armored Assault against Sib's Scavenge Fortifications and Breakthrough. So we have almost certainly some form of call-in infantry, whether it's Jaegers or Panzer Fusiliers or MG-34s. Fortifications is pretty good on this map since it can be really difficult to maneuver vehicles around. The PaK-43 can be a very powerful defensive structure, depending on what Lewted decides to do. Because he hasn't chosen shock rifle, he's not going to have access to shock troops on this map. None of his commanders give him access to shock troops, or guards, in fact. Freshly buffed guards either. Although he could get assault guards. But they haven't been changed this patch at all. So operating with a kind of interesting commander loadout. Having gone tier 1 with penal battalions, I'm not sure what his commander plans are. We might be looking at Lend-Lease. Maybe he can get himself a machine gun without going tier 2. So maybe. Armored Assault would give him access to all the late game call-ins. And if we were going to see NKVD Rifle Disruption, I feel like he would have chosen it already for a radio intercept, and then I think he would be just spamming conscripts, so not sure what his plans are. Sib has gone with tier 2. Battle group headquarters over here by the fuel to give him a staging point for engagements over there on the right side. And at the very beginning of the game, he's taking almost full control of the battlefield, trying to grab both fuel points. But he will retreat just to play it safe once he sees that M3. There's no flamethrower inside, so it's not too much of a threat, but he's going to get that Volksgrenadier squad out of there just to be safe. Penal Battalion is making its way to the front lines here, and because Lewted doesn't have great map control, he hasn't been able to afford his first flamethrower yet. Sib currently has control of both munitions points. Conscripts are struggling to make anything happen at any locations on the map. And Sib has total building control as well, so he can engage very cost effectively against these penal battalions with just Volksgrenadiers. Satchel charge gets cancelled. He was about to toss it into that building. I don't think a satchel charge destroys this building, so I can see why he'd cancel that when his opponent reacted. Because that building is extremely durable. I don't know if I've ever, in fact, seen this building destroyed. Probably takes like a couple Stuka barrages or something to get rid of that thing. Molotovs have been researched, and he's going to utilize those to try and get those Folks Grenadiers out of that house. Dealing significant damage to the squad, that's going to be forced to retreat. Here in the south, Folks Grenadiers and Stern Pioneers taking control of pretty much all territory. And a couple squads reinforcing here in the base. Combat engineers making their way up to the left side. Lewted's in a pretty awful situation. Off to a pretty bad start. He's spread himself out across multiple different areas of engagement. Because of his failure to secure building control early, he's just getting shut down in all engagements. He didn't purchase a flamethrower yet, despite having gone with 2 squads of penal battalions, which is leaving him in an awkwardly weak state, especially on Stalingrad, where they should perform quite nicely with their flamethrowers. He hasn't even managed to get a fuel point under control. He really needs to engage better, especially this early in the game. He needs to win an engagement somewhere on the map, or he's going to fall way behind. Shoe mine gets stepped on over there. Nice mine by those Stern Pios. Because Sib has such excellent map control, he can easily afford to plant mines. He's obviously hoping that the M3 will hit one. But he's also got a Panzerschreck upgraded right here, so he's got a tool with which to deal with the M3, even if it manages to avoid all of his mines. No minesweeper from Lewted, but he might consider getting one now that he knows that mines are on the field. Stern Pioneers move up on the flank of the penal battalion right there. They'll be forced to retreat before taking particularly heavy losses. And there they go. M3 is peeking at the right side, but the Panzerschreck is available over here. And the Raketenwerfer is inside of this house, so both flanks of the map have more than enough anti-tank to deal with that M3 if it decides to get aggressive. Conscripts trying to engage from a distance. Penal Battalion also engaging these Stern Pios from a distance. They're actually quite wounded. They'll be forced to retreat soon. At this range, they can't do particularly meaningful damage to that Penal Battalion. They're going to reposition away. Conscripts at this range without cover, not doing too well against these Folks Grenadiers either. These Folks Grenadiers moving to take control of the strategic point. We're going to see another tech structure from Sib soon. Load up to 400 manpower. Probably needs to start thinking about fielding something a little scarier than what he currently has. Up to 3 command points. He doesn't really have any commander features that can help him in his current situation. Normally at this point as Soviets you would field yourself some shock troops to give you a little bit more punch against your opponent's infantry. Ooh, we might see a really nice pickup by Lewted here though. He may catch Sib's tier 4 structure under construction. That Penal Battalion needs to move to do something about this though. He's clearly spotted it, but he's just standing here engaging Folks Grenadiers. Why would he not shut this down? And these conscripts are firing at those Stern Pioneers. He had an opportunity to destroy this, but he's not capitalizing on it. I don't know why. Just lets that thing build, and now will easily shut down all pushes by infantry for the south. Meanwhile, here in the north, satchel charge, deployed into the building, and it does one-shot the building. Okay, I was wrong. Building gets destroyed by that satchel charge. That was a pretty cool destruction animation. I don't know if I've ever watched that happen, but the Penal Battalion is wiped on retreat because the satchel blew up half the remaining squad, and then Folks Grenadiers finished them off as they tried to get home. Folks Grenadiers are going to take control of all remaining territory on the map. Lewted is triple capped and has absolutely no territory under his control whatsoever. He's building himself a fresh squad of penal battalions. Some of his upgrades were a little on the early side, by the way, as well. If you tech up and then also buy a ton of upgrades while you only have 3 or 4 combat-capable squads, you're probably going to struggle against your opponent's stuff, especially if he manages to secure building control. I don't know, I guess he got them at a pretty reasonable time. Losing that squad of penal battalions definitely hurts, though. He just needs to engage better with the forces he does have. At this point, it may not matter what he does. Panzer II on the field from Sib. That's going to make its way straight for Lewted's base, and he doesn't have anti-tank grenades, and with no income at all, he won't even really be able to afford anti-tank grenades in any way. Molotov over the wall. Panzer II engaging conscripts at range. It's already got 5 kills. And this is pretty much the end of the game. Jumping into game 2, I think Lewted needs to think better about securing building control and map control, engaging cost effectively, and finding ways to turn engagements in his favor, which shouldn't be that hard as Soviets, since he's got 6-man, slightly more effective early game squads against Volksgrenadiers. As long as he utilizes cover and buildings more effectively than his opponent, he should definitely not be getting boxed in like this, especially not this early. I also think he might want to focus a little bit more on his upgrade options. All these penal battalions and no flamethrowers throughout the entire game. His munitions upgrade options. His manpower upgrade options. He might consider waiting until a little later in the game if he's finding it difficult to engage cost effectively. Panzer II continues to simply round up various squads. He's just now collecting the munitions he needs for 1 anti-tank grenade, but all of his conscripts are dead. And while he does manage to get his tier 2 structure up, it doesn't really matter. All squads wiped. Field gun is gonna hit the battlefield before the game ends, but not really sure what that's worth. Ostwind is on its way. There goes the field gun. And there we go. GG, short break, and we will jump into game 2.